Hello and welcome to another English lesson. Uh, this is an English lesson for third grade high school students. It's called Meet and Environment, and this is the second part of the lesson. So, let's get ready. A notebook and a pen or a pencil, or you can use your PC, tablet, or smartphone. Again, a list of links you might need. What are we going to do today? We'll continue with some revision. So the survey, vocabulary work, research, reading the text, and raising awareness. What we did previously. So we talked about the carbon footprint. If you remember, the CO2, how much of it we produce. Then we talked about the nitrogen, which is also vital for the food production, and how much nitrogen we produce. Then we mentioned how UN is handling the situation, and what are some of the actions UN is taking on the climate change. We talked about the eating habits, how much meat we eat, why do people become vegetarians. We mentioned the food industry, which is a big problem. We did some research, calculating our own carbon footprint, calculating our own nitrogen footprint, and we did a little survey. So, what are we going to do today? We're going to do some reading today, but we will start off with a little vocabulary work. Here you have a link to the exercise online. So if you want, you can pause the video and do the exercise online, or you can try to do the exercise in your notebooks. Match the words on the left to their definitions on the right. So words like emissions, dairy, guilty, inefficient, unfair, antibiotics, grain, wasteful, resistance, suffer, significant, livestock, and harming. So match them to the definitions on the right. And here are the results. So antibiotics, of course, this is a medicine, and it only fights bacterial infection, not the viruses. Dairy refers to anything that's made out of milk. Emissions, this is the air pollution we cause, so emitting carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and so on. Grain, so it's a type of food grown by farmers, like wheat or rice. When you're feeling bad because you've done something wrong, you feel guilty. Hurting, damaging is harming. When you're not doing things in an organized way, you're probably inefficient. So all the animals farmers keep to use for meat or milk is called livestock. When you become resistant to drugs, or drugs have stopped working, you have developed a resistance. Something that is important is significant. To feel bad physically or emotionally, it means to suffer. Situation where one group of people has more resources than the other group is called unfair, and using your resources stupidly or throwing them away is wasteful. So, first reading we're going to do will be reading for the main idea. How do we read for the main idea? We can either try to identify the topic, we can try to summarize the passage and see what the passage is all about. We can look at the first and the last sentence of the passage. This is a place where the writer usually puts in the main idea. Or we can look for the repetition of ideas, meaning the words which are often repeated in the text. I suggest for this reading that you underline some of the words that might help you finding the main idea. Why do we read for the main idea? Usually if we have to add a title to the paragraph, and the title usually holds or is connected to the main idea. So the article we are going to read is called 5 Ways the Meat on Our Plate is Killing the Planet. Here you can see the link to the reading. So this is the text you're going to read. You can see there are 5 headings. Unnecessary animal suffering, making us unhealthy, it hurts the poor, grain, water and land, and environmental problems. So the text is divided into 7 paragraphs. You have to label the 5 paragraphs. You can see the numbers where you could put the headings before the paragraph. The text has been adapted from the news website, The Conversation, by Francis Vergunst and Julian Savulescu in 2017. I hope it wasn't a very difficult task, so let's see if you managed to do it correctly. So the first paragraph is labeled Environmental Problems. In this paragraph, you could have found the words like environment, greenhouse effect, and climate change. The second paragraph, labeled grain, water, and land, quite obviously, these are the 3 words that were repeated in this paragraph. Paragraph 3, it hurts the poor. Maybe the key sentence here is harder for the world's poorer. Number 4, unnecessary animal suffering. Here you could find phrases like animals have feelings and suffer unnecessarily. And the 5th paragraph, making us unhealthy, growing public health problems. Let's move on. Reading for detail. This usually means more intensive reading. One of these activities is skimming a text for specific information to answer true or false statements or filling gaps in a summary. In this case, we're going to do the true-false task. Suggestion, it is always a good advice to read the questions you have to answer before you read the text. Of course, you can also underline all the keywords or phrases that can help you answer the questions. So please read the text and using the link, try to do the task. The first statement, emissions from transports are higher than emissions from livestock farming. Eating pork or chicken is less harmful. A quarter of the land in the world is used for livestock farming. Grain is too expensive for some of the world's poorest people to buy. Livestock farming uses half of the antibiotics produced every year. People in rich nations are eating 2 or 3 times more meat every day than the UN recommends. And if we ate less meat, we could save over $1 trillion on healthcare alone. So after you have read the texts, please decide which of these sentences are true or false. And here are the results. The first statement is false. So the meat industry contributes to 18% of human-produced greenhouse gas emissions, which is more than the total for ships, planes, trucks, cars, and other transport. The second statement was true. So for 1 kilo of beef, we require 25 kilograms of grain and 15 liters of water. Statement number 3, Around 30% of Earth's land surface is used for livestock farming, so a quarter, of course, is 25%. The fourth statement was true. Feeding grain to livestock increases demand for grain and leads to higher prices, which means that poorer people can't get enough grain. The fifth one is false. The US, 80% of all antibiotics are used by the animal farming industry. The sixth one is unfortunately true. So in high-income countries, we eat 200 to 250 grams a day of meat, which is far higher than the 80 to 90 grams recommended by the UN nations. If you compare this to the survey you did in your family, it would be interesting to see how much meat do you eat per day compared to the recommended amount by the United Nations. And the seventh one was false. So it's not 3 million, but it's $1.5 trillion. So, discussion point. After reading this article, I would like you to think if you can make or might make changes to how much meat you eat. Think about why is this possible and why not. Try to describe the changes you'd like to make. What might be difficult about making these changes? In your report, up to 100 words, try to answer these questions. Please send your reports to your English teachers to check. After you read, let's do some vocabulary work. Choose 3 words from the vocabulary exercise that you would like to remember and use. You could choose words which are new to you, you often make mistakes with, you think will be useful, or are very different in your language. Write personal sentences for each of these words. And this brings us to the end of our second lesson on meat and environment. A little exit card. Try to think about this lesson. Are you still confused? Is there anything you want to remember? If you had an aha moment, if you have any questions, something you already know, what would be one word to sum up what you have learned? Are there more things that you have learned? So try to note these things down. And finally, let's do some self-evaluation. A little checklist. After these 2 lessons, can you say that you have tried different reading strategies? Have you become more aware of the environmental problems? Discussed the topic with your friends? Are you going to change the way you act? Have you tried calculating your footprint? Have you done any projects? And have you written at least one report? I would like to thank you for your attention and hope we will see each other next time. Bye.